This is Chris Morton, and you're listening to The Recovery. Hi guys, so in this episode I will be covering programming and more specifically the programming that we do here at Electric Fitness. So yeah, obviously when you're on this journey of opening a gym, at some point you will be covering the actual programming. So what it is that you actually will be getting your members to do to get to their goals. Whether it's strength and conditioning, what sort of actual programming that they're doing. If you're running boxing, what sort of boxing routines are you doing? If you're doing, if you're a coach for a rugby team, and in the off season, what is the strength and conditioning coach doing to get you guys fit? So I guess in the functional fitness world or the CrossFit world, there's, I guess, every single CrossFit box is independent. So basically it's the take of the owner or the head coach to come up with their interpretation or flavor of programming and how they want to do it. I already know in my experience in being a member of a couple of boxes, even going to CrossFit competitions and talking to other athletes, what people do to get their version of fitness is dramatically different. People who work out at home, what they do to get to their goals is different for everyone. But typically, I guess in a CrossFit gym, functional fitness gym type environment, you're going to be getting a certain flavor of programming that I guess the head coach feels comfortable delivering. And I guess in more recent developments, you'll find that a lot of boxes might even now outsource their programming. So they'll pay a fee and actually get the programming delivered, and then they deliver that to the class. That seems to be quite a common theme that I've noticed, and something that I think is quite smart. Personally myself, I am not a programming nerd. It's not something that I'm typically into. I marvel and wonder at people, how they come up with the workouts. There's a lot that goes into it, but I think that can be left to a few really good people who are good at that, and then pay them to do that, and then it's just a matter of delivering it to your members. So in the past, I know I've been on typically I would say like CrossFit GPP or CrossFit strength and conditioning type of programs, probably delivered to someone who might typically want to go to the CrossFit Open and do typically well, and then the programming scale down from there. I wanted probably a take on CrossFit that was more like classic CrossFit, when CrossFit first came out and you just had the one workout of the day. Whereas I think sometimes some boxes might get into that every single session has to have a strength and conditioning piece every single day. Whereas I thought, not necessarily because I liked it, but I thought it was more beneficial, especially maybe to the everyday member who's busy in their job, that it's more of a one workout of the day type format. So that typically could be a very small, sharp piece, or like a long endurance piece, and also could include a strength and conditioning piece. Also wanted a program that didn't typically follow a set structure. So you might have Olympic lifting on every Wednesday, or you might have a gymnastic piece every Tuesday, or your recovery day is always a Thursday. I wanted a program that was more pure CrossFit, very randomized, no real set structure. So I knew I was going to outsource my programming from the get-go. I didn't want to be tied up in programming. I was quite happy to pay a pretty good fee. Like it's a reasonable expense and overhead, and it gives you so much value if you get the right program. So I was tossing up between. I had only ever known raw strength and conditioning, but then I also came across warm up and workout by Pat Barber, and I was tossing up between those two. And I was more leaning towards warm up and workout, which is more that classic CrossFit. Typically just going to be one particular focus or intent or stimulus of that session. Whereas I think more raw always seem to have a strength and conditioning component, and may typically be maybe too much of a brutal program for the everyday person. So when I was coming up with this, I was assessing warm up and workout. Then I actually somehow stumbled across Jason Kalipa's NC Fit was now releasing his own programming, and was also the first to go to market to actually have it as an option that it automatically goes in. They used Waterfy first, and I was on Waterfy for my gym software. So they were the first to do that, where you could just basically push a button, say, yep, I'm opting in. And then every Friday, I think it's Friday afternoon, the next week's worth of program is automatically pushed into Waterfy for you. You don't have to do anything. You can obviously go in later and tweak things that don't quite fit, maybe like this equipment adjustments. But the actual program itself, for the one fee, you actually get 5 programming tracks to play around with. It's pretty awesome. And since they released this, I think about this time last year, they've obviously been developing it, and it's just getting better and better and better. So if you're not on or haven't checked out NC Fit, I highly recommend it. So what Jason was doing is that he runs multiple locations under the NC Fit banner. He's an ex-CrossFit Games athlete, now gone into being a multi-gym owner across the States, and also I think he's got some in Japan, maybe some other countries. So obviously for him to manage all these boxes, he wanted a consistent programming feel throughout all the boxes. Imagine having 20 locations and every single head coach was running their own programming. It would be an absolute nightmare to keep on top of. So they have a little department run via a guy called Matt. I think he used to work at Reebok, and him and Jason and also a few other guys, they put together all these programming. So they're quite well experienced, probably more experienced than most gym owners or head coaches out there anyway. So I think you can't go wrong with checking it out. So I guess to maybe review a little bit what they do. So as it stands today, it was a bit different. They made a few changes, but as it stands today, they still give you, I think it's 5 programming tracks. So the main one's called NC Metcon, which is your classic CrossFit program, a GPP program. Then they have another one called NCX, which is Strength and Metcon. So if you really are into that and your clientele really, really want that, they have a Strength and Metcon condition. So that's where almost every single workout or session the athletes are getting exposed to the barbell in a strength piece and a conditioning piece. Whereas your NC Metcon is you're touching on all the 10 attributes of CrossFit. You're going all the way from the highest skill movements like a ring muscle up to the highest skill Olympic movements like the overhead squat snatch and everything in between. They also have another program called NC HIT, which is a 30-minute program, and that's just bodyweight and light dumbbells. I actually also ran this at Electric for a while. I'll cover that a bit later. There's another track that they have. It's called NC Compete. So this is for your more elite athletes that are probably at like that CrossFit Open level, maybe regional, or now where they really want to go further in the sport of CrossFit. And that particular track has 3-part programming. So there's a part A, a part B and a part C. Part A is, and you can break that up over your day or do it in one big massive session that probably take you 2 hours. Part A is generally a conditioning piece. Part B is actually the NC Metcon program. So it's very smart. They actually want these athletes to still integrate into your class community, an everyday person community. And then there's the part C is usually a strength piece. And that's run on, I think it's 3 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 day off, two actual full rest days. Then I have another one called NC Burn, which is interval training. I've never really looked into that. It's not what I do. It might be good for maybe boot camps or it's just some sort of body weight type classes if you've diversified what you do. And they also recently released NC Go, which is what we're using now for our outdoor classes. It's a program that can be done anywhere. All you need is a pair of dumbbells, a jump rope, and maybe a cardio bit of equipment. You can always just sub into running or some other body weight movements for your cardio. So we've been using that for our outdoor program right now, which is awesome. And you can also do that at home as well. We actually offer that to members who want to train from home or on holidays here when they become a member. So for the one fee, you're getting all this value. And depending on the size of your box, you might actually maybe want to run NC Metcon, the traditional CrossFit, and maybe NCX, Strength and Metcon in different flavors of classes throughout the week. I think it could be a lot of value there. So what we do at Electric, we just run the one class, NC Metcon, or I call it EF Metcon. When you actually do subscribe, you have the freedom to change the name, to suit your brand. And so we run that just at the moment. When we go back to in the gym, I find that's the best program for everyone. It's 1 hour. It's a warm up. It's a strength or skill piece, and a conditioning piece, or it's a warm up and a massive more endurance conditioning piece. The program's given to you 7 days a week. So if you run programming over 7 days, there you go, you're covered. So like if you don't know what GPP is, it's general physical preparedness, and it can be defined as a training period devoted to the general development of, but not limited to, conditioning, power, strength, skill, flexibility, endurance, pretty much the 10 elements of what you get better at in CrossFit. I find GPPs like important because it just has so many applications. It can get you prepared for anything in life. So if you're a firefighter, or if you're playing some sort of sport, or if you just want to, move better just in your general life, you've got young kids, you're a former athlete, or you used to have, this is just a good program that you can rock up to the gym, at least 3 times a week, and you're going to get some value and some change out of it. So when I opened up the gym, I actually started with, the NC Metcon. I also had a lunchtime class for half an hour, and I used the NC HIIT program. So just for that time slot was to fit people who were obviously breaking away probably from work, and coming in just having a half an hour sweat session, which is really good. I could see a lot of value with it. However, I had made the decision after 6 months of running that I was just diversifying too much for where I was at in terms of a membership base, and I need to refocus on building the people who are really after that 1 hour of fitness, and just focus on that. And I find with my shift in wanting people to have a more of results-based training or tied into goals, and I felt NC Metcon, or the 60-minute classic GPP type program is how you're going to get there. The actual program itself, if you're using, I think now they've expanded to Sugar WOD. I've never used that. Zen Planner, and have obviously integrated with Wodify. And the actual program or each class program has an amazing, I don't know how to describe it, very detailed session plans that cover almost every transition and what you should be doing in your class. So if you have some newer coaches on your roster, or even experienced coaches you can always learn how someone else is doing something, and you don't have to do what they do. Like, I know some of the coaches here will modify the suggested warm-ups, and they might do something that they know is something similar, but they will feel more comfortable delivering the warm-up a different way. And we changed the actual workouts as well, maybe due to equipment limitations. You probably shouldn't, like with NC Metcon, all they're asking you to do is probably have dumbbells, barbells, obviously plates, cardio equipment. They never put in the ski erg, so it'll be like air bike or rower, or the bike erg you could use as a bike. Slam balls, obviously the pull-up rig, but you're never going to do other odd type things like maybe sandbags, which is probably one of the only negatives I have, is that they don't put in like sleds or anything a bit more, I guess, not your everyday use, which is sort of good, but can maybe limit to what you can do if you're following their program 100%. You're not going to have that option to have a day where you just do something maybe like a real strongman type day, and you've got a yoke, you've got some sleds, and or you've got a tire, and you just want to program in something different. That's when you're going to have to you just do something different for that day. The session plans are awesome. Have a suggested scaling options, suggested extended warm-ups. Also, each session has a video where they'll target 1 point of performance, and it's even delivered a lot of times by the man himself, Jason Kalipa. He gets special guests on. Another great thing is that you have a Facebook forum of all coaches that are in this together, all asking questions, common questions. So you're going to get a lot of frequently asked questions that you can get some ideas off of how to better run your classes. What else I was going to mention? They recently have teamed up with Kelly Starrett with a mobility track, or mobility post-workout stretching, suggested stretching. At the moment, they've just done it for, if you're following the EF Go program or the NC Go program, which is the dumbbell bodyweight program. But I'm pretty sure that they're going to actually, maybe once we go back to in-gym, it will probably expand to, or be in replace of, or move across to the 60-minute program. So you do your class, and then there'll be an option to watch a video of Kelly Starrett. You could just give it to your members, or you could run it in your class. I think that's where they're heading. They haven't announced that. That's just my thoughts on it. What else? Oh, yeah, another thing they do with NC Fit is that they actually have their own benchmark workouts. They'll so much like the hero and women workouts that you get in CrossFit, they've come up with their own ones that they'll run 2 to 3 times per year. They'll also run some baseline fitness marker workouts as well, 2 to 3 times a year, which is awesome, that you can really gauge and relay to your members, hey, this is what your score or time was back in 6 months ago when you joined or you started with us, and now look, you've progressed. Or look, we see that you haven't, let's have a look into why. Maybe you haven't progressed in that area, and we can nail down and maybe change things. Another thing, actually, I really like what they do, and I wish they'd maybe work closer with Waterfire on this, is instead of saying an RX workout and a scaled option, what they like to do is they call it loading 1 and loading 2 option. Loading 1 is like the top level athlete, a heavier weight or a high number of rep schemes, and then a loading 2, which is a suggested scaled version for your newer, less conditioned athletes. But still, like if you're saying in your class, oh look, we're doing loading 1, loading 2, and then you go to the Wodify, and then it's RX or not RX. It's like if they could maybe work with Wodify and actually have it as I did loading 1, loading 2, and on the leaderboards you've got that sort of filtered out. I guess that brings up that subject of scoring or timing workouts. I think for me, I personally, as the owner or as a coach, I'm very relaxed on this and let the athletes decide if they want to put in what they did. I do encourage everyone to put in their strength scores or loads. So when they're doing like a back squat or a front squat, like that's individual to you. Like you're not comparing yourself to anyone else, but we want to track how you're progressing. I guess in the everyday conditioning pieces that are just a new workout that you'll probably never see again, then I feel there's no real point to put that in. You can put it in and have a nice and be high on the leaderboard for that day. But I really do recommend that all the athletes or the members put in the benchmark workouts or the hero WOD workouts, because that is a real marker of how you're tracking with your fitness. Like even myself, like I maybe perform not as good as I did a long time ago, but then I'll know mentally, like that day I was fresh, I was fired up. Another day I've had a really tough week at work. This may be my 4th training day. I probably shouldn't be training. I haven't really ate well. And look, didn't perform that well. Another thing they do is have a movement library. So there's, especially coming from Australia, we call a lot of exercises different. And I remember that all the coaches here, especially when they start, I don't know, even myself, what some of the suggested, especially in the warm-up movements are. That you can actually just usually YouTube it and you'll find the workout, but they actually have a library of every single movement that they do. A lot of things are Americanized too, like some of their terminologies. I think one of them's like they say bootstrappers, whereas I know other people call them Russian baby makers. You get like different interpretations. Another big thing for Australia is everything is in pounds in the programming. So you do have to convert it to kilos, which is a bit annoying. Maybe one day down the track, there'll be some sort of auto conversion feature with Wodify where, they might push it in the programming as pounds, but we can actually have it automatically show as kilos. But it's honestly not a big thing. It's very, very common. Usually you'll find weights are like, like what I find annoying, as I mentioned, is the conversion of pounds to, but you get quite quickly, you can figure out the pounds conversion to kilos. So when it comes up the board, 95 pounds is suggested load. You know the barbell's 43 kilos for men. When it comes up on the board that I think it's usually 135 pounds. You know it's 61 kilos for men. But even that, like you're putting on those extra 1 kilo, half a kilo plates to get an extra kilo, that's just to have that standard. So when you're going to the CrossFit Open type workouts, that you have been training at that plate level, that load level. But honestly, for the everyday person, you don't need to put them on. Okay, so I hope that's a little bit clearer about the programming that we do here at Electric Fitness. And also just a review of an option that if you haven't explored before, if you're a gym owner anywhere in the world really, I'd highly recommend looking at NC Fit. You'll get your time back. Sure, it's another expense in the gym business where there's a lot of little overhead expenses, but I think this one definitely gives you the value that will pay off later. All right, guys, so that's it for this episode in my journey to opening up Electric Fitness. I hope you enjoyed.